Welcome back, warrior. We are reading Helaman chapter 4. Okay. And it came to pass. Oh, just kidding. Oh, we're like getting right into it because why? Because it's something that I think about it a lot. It's like, how much time have you been thinking about Jesus today versus how much time have you been thinking about other stuff? And sometimes it's sad to say, but I think of other stuff more than I think of Jesus. And then some days I'm like, today I thought of Jesus a lot, right? And so like giving my time to the Lord, like how much am I investing? Now today was my temple day, and I was able to go to the temple this morning, and it was awesome. Today's my temple shift day, I should say. So I got to work there. And that is amazing. But also, I want to read my scriptures. And the other day, yesterday, I went to the temple, and I didn't read. And it's hard because when you have the temple, it's almost like you fill your cup so much that you almost feel like you don't need additional stuff. But I really do. And anyways, because I didn't read yesterday, now I'm even more behind. So anyway, but what did we say? We're never late when we're reading the scriptures. Okay, so, and you're never behind when you're reading the scriptures. You're right where you need to be. So I have to continue to say those affirmations so that I can ignore the ones that Satan tries to send me. Because Satan will make me feel bad about not reading my scriptures, but then he'll also make me feel bad that I didn't read enough. So you really can't win with that guy. Well, and he's not a guy. With that. With it. You can't really win with it. Okay, so chapter 4, Nephite dissenters and the Lamanites join forces and take the land of Zarahemla. The Nephites' defeats come because of their wickedness. The church dwindles and the people become weak like the Lamanites. Ugh, this is not going to be a good chapter. However, they have the right amount of verses because there's 26 verses. So here we go. Says, and it came to pass in the 50 and 4th year, there were many dissensions in the church, and there was also a contention among the people, insomuch that there was much bloodshed. So it's getting sad, right? And the rebellious part were slain and driven out of the land, and they did go unto the king of the Lamanites. Okay, so now we have the peeps who rebelled are now joining the Lamanites, which is not good because the Lamanites are probably like, really again? But they love having more peeps all the time, but it's not good for the Nephites because we lose our family members, our friends. Anyways, okay. So then verse 3, and it came to pass that they did endeavor to stir up the Lamanites to war against the Nephites. Oh yeah. And the dissenters are the ones that are always trying to like instigate stuff because they feel bad that they're not being righteous. But behold, the Lamanites were exceedingly afraid, insomuch that they would not hearken to the words of those dissenters. Good job, Lamanites. Because that's wise. They're like, what? We have the Nephites wanting to come again? Or we can't fight the Nephites, dude. Like, it's fine. And, you know, I kind of like the Lamanites. Like, I'm not going to lie, like, we give them so much hate, but really they just wanted to be lazy in their own land. And it's the dissenters who were trying to come up and make war against the Nephites. So it's really just the Nephites trying to fight the Nephites. And that's what I think is crazy because, you know, the Lamanites, they're just like, we're fine. Like, we fought them a couple times and, you know, it was exciting. But, you know, we're fine. Like, we're just chilling. You know, I feel like they'd be just chilling, right? But of course, the dissenters. Okay, but it came to pass in the 50 and 6th year of the reign of the judges, there were dissenters who went up from the Nephites unto the Lamanites. And they succeeded with those others in stirring them up to anger against the Nephites. And they were all that year preparing for war. See, they could have been left and it would have been fine. Wasn't like the Lamanites were never going to come up to war against us on their own. And they usually don't. It's just the dissenters. They can't leave the church alone, right? When they leave the church, they can't leave it alone. Okay, so things started to spiral. Pride and contention had been growing and growing. Now there are many dissensions in the church. The first group of dissenters could not get the Lamanites to go to war, but 2 years later, there were more dissenters who really helped this along, and that is when the Lamanites prepared for war. So, really sad. Okay, verses 5 to 10. And in the 57th year, they did come down against the Nephites to battle, and they did commence the work of death. Yea, insomuch that in the 58th year of the reign of the judges, they succeeded in obtaining possession of the land of Zarahemla. Yea, and also all the lands, even unto the land which was near the land bountiful. And the Nephites and the armies of Moronihah were driven even into the land bountiful. So this is in the north part of the Nephite land. And there they did fortify against the Lamanites from the west sea, even unto the east, it being a day's journey for a Nephite on the line which they had fortified and stationed their armies to defend their north country. And thus those dissenters of the Nephites, with the help of numerous army of the Lamanites, had obtained all the possession of the Nephites, which was in the land southward. And all this was done in the 9th years of the reign of the judges. And it came to pass in the 60th year of the reign of the judges, Mormoniah did succeed with his armies in obtaining many parts of the land. Yea, they regained many cities which had fallen into the hands of the Lamanites. Okay, so they're kind of going back and forth. And it came to pass in the 61st year of the reign of the judges, they succeeded in regaining even the half of all their possessions. Now, this great loss of the Nephites and the great slaughter which was among them would not have happened had it not been for their wickedness and their abomination, which was among them. Yea, and it was among those who professed to belong to the church of God. Okay, so it's interesting that Mormon put all of the battle up to this point in verse 5. They had obtained many cities, and each one would have been a story, but he does not tell us those stories this time. He gave us 20 chapters of battle and strategy in Alma, so we can imagine what the Lamanites might have done to gain these cities. We now know how this goes. That's nice. So thanks, Mormon. But he doesn't tell us. But he doesn't tell us this time. His point that he was us to notice will come in a few verses, it seems. And Moroniah and his armies were up in the north part of the land, and they had fortified the line that would take a person an entire day to walk. This is it. They only have this part of their land left. If they did not protect this land, they would be entirely conquered. The war began in the 56th year, and then this was the 58th year. Look how much they lost in 2 years. Look how much damage can be done in such a short amount of time. Why? Because we got weak, right? We got weak. 2 years later, though, Moroniah regained half the Nephite cities. Mormon does not give us the details of these individual battles, but we can just imagine like what happened, right? Because the strategies. But in the next verses, Mormon makes his point, okay? So verses 12 to 14. And it was because of the pride of their hearts, because of their exceeding riches, yea, it was because of their oppression to the poor, withholding their food from the hungry, withholding their clothing from the naked, and smiting their humble brethren upon the cheek, making a mock of that which was sacred, denying the spirit of prophecy and revelation, murdering, plundering, lying, stealing, committing adultery, rising up in great contentions, and deserting away into the land of Nephi among the Lamanites. And because of this, their great wickedness and their boasting in their own strength, they were left in their own strength. Therefore, they did not prosper, but were afflicted and smitten and driven before the Lamanites until they had lost possession of almost all their lands. But behold, Moroniah did preach many things unto the people because of their iniquity, and also Nephi and Lehi, who were the sons of Helaman, did preach many things unto the people, yea, and did prophesy many things unto them concerning their iniquities and what should come unto them if they did not repent of their sins. So basically, they weren't keeping the commandments. They weren't being awesome anymore, right? They started getting that pride cycle started again. And what happens with the pride cycle? You know, you start feeling like you're all that. And then you can be a bully. And then it goes downhill, keeps going downhill from there. Okay, verse 15. And it came to pass that they did repent. Inasmuch as they did repent, they did begin to prosper. So isn't that interesting how that works? That cycle, just, you know, you can repent and you can start over. And instead of being in that pride cycle, you want to get into that, into a righteous routine, or you want to get into the spiritual momentum where you can take yourself to the next level there. You don't have to get caught in the pride cycle, right? You want to go that way. For when Moroniah saw that they did repent, he did venture to lead them forth from place to place and from city to city, even until they had regained the 1/2 of their property and the 1/2 of their lands. And thus ended the 61st year of the reign of the judges. And it came to pass in the 62nd year of the reign of the judges that Moroniah could obtain no more possessions over the Lamanites. Therefore, they did abandon their design to obtain the remainder of their lands, for so numerous were the Lamanites that it became impossible for the Nephites to obtain more power over them. Therefore, Moroniah did employ all his armies in maintaining those parts which he had taken. So now the Lamanites really are taken over. And I remember Jacob speaking about how the Lamanites were more blessed, or were more righteous than the Nephites. Remember that? Okay. And it just kind of makes me think, like, is this the cycle we're going to be in now, where the Lamanites are going to be awesome again? Okay, and it came to pass, because of the greatness of the number of the Lamanites, the Nephites were in great fear lest they should be overpowered and trodden down and slain and destroyed. Okay, verse 21 to 26. Yea, they began to remember the prophecies of Alma and also the words of Mosiah, and they saw that they had been a stiff-necked people, and that they had set at naught the commandments of God, and that they had altered and trampled under their feet the laws of Mosiah, or that which the Lord commanded him to give unto the people. And they saw that their laws had become corrupted, and that they had become a wicked people, insomuch that they were wicked even like unto the Lamanites. And because of their iniquity, the church had begun to dwindle, and they began to disbelieve in the spirit of prophecy and in the spirit of revelation, and the judgments of God did stare them in the face. And they saw that would not be good. And they saw that they had become weak, like unto their brethren the Lamanites, and that the Spirit of the Lord did no more preserve them. Yea, it had withdrawn from them, because the Spirit of the Lord doth not dwell in unholy temples. Therefore the Lord did cease to preserve them by his miraculous and matchless power, for they had fallen into a state of unbelief and awful wickedness. And they saw that the Lamanites were exceedingly more numerous than they, and except they should cleave unto their Lord their God, they must unavoidably perish. For behold, they saw that the strength of the Lamanites was so great as their strength, even man for man. And thus had they fallen into this great transgression. Yea, thus had they become weak because of their transgression in the space of not many years. Okay, and maybe I shared this with you a while back, but when we went to Greece, we stayed in this area of town that was kind of not, wasn't super fancy or whatever, but it also wasn't like the poorest neighborhood. So there were 4 strip clubs in the area that we could walk to, literally like around the corner, across the street. And I was going to do laundry, and that's like, I walked, no joke, wasn't very far, and 4 strip clubs. Now, something that I notice about Utah is the growth. I mean, we're always in construction. We're doing something, we're progressing, we're doing, good things. And something I also notice is that it's very clean, and sure, we might not be as old as Greece or whatever, but we progress. And I don't, know what each person individually is doing per se, but we have temples and we have different things here. It means that for the most part, a lot of us are keeping our covenants and striving to become like Christ, right? And because we have not been stopped or damned by our unrighteous actions and our poor choices, then we're able to progress. And the Nephites here, it seems, as they were making those poor choices, they could no longer progress. They could no longer prosper in the land. They could no longer do those things that they originally were doing when they were keeping the commandments. And I think it's because Satan distracts us with comparison, right? And And what are you trying to do? You're trying to one up your brothers or your sisters. They're pitting us against each other. He tries to get us to compare ourselves, our bodies to each other. And so we're busy instead of trying to progress as a nation or as a country or as a city. We no longer want to work together, but we want to isolate ourselves, and we're trying to one up our neighbor. You know, instead of love our neighbor as ourselves, we're trying to one up our neighbor. And it does not turn out to progress. Like, it doesn't turn into any kind of progress, and you're just being distracted by what you don't have, by who you're not. And Satan traps us this way. And I think it's so important for us to see the different, I think this is what Mormon's trying to show us, is like, look, when you are keeping the commandments of the Lord and doing those things that you know you want to do to become better, and you're in line with what righteous actions, you know, God has set out for us, then we can progress, and we progress quickly. Remember Moroni? Like they progressed, they made so much progress. They built so many cities, they were doing so good, they were spreading. And when we're not doing any of those things, when we're not keeping those commandments, we shut down and we regress, and we, I guess you could say, like, shrivel up like a prune or like a raisin, right? And I think that's what Mormon's trying to show us. Like, not that we wouldn't have problems, because I feel like that is also like a like a myth or whatever, where if you keep the commandments, you don't have problems. That's not true. If you keep the commandments, you have problems, but you also have hope and you have peace, because you know where hope and peace comes from. Here's a quote from President Boyd K. Packer, and he used verse 23 to address church members who disagree when changes are made within the church. He said, "There are those within the church who are disturbed when changes are made with which they disagree, or when changes they propose are not made. They point to these as evidence that the leaders are not inspired. They write and speak to convince others that the doctrines and decisions of the brethren are not given through inspiration." Helaman described those who began to disbelieve in the spirit of prophecy and in the spirit of revelation, and the judgments of God did stare them in the face. They were left in their own strength, and the Spirit of the Lord did no more preserve them, yea, it had withdrawn from them. Changes in organization or procedures are a testimony that revelation is ongoing. While doctrines remain fixed, the methods or procedures do not. End quote. Ooh, that's so good. And usually that's what leads people to, leads people astray. Like something that changed, or something that was some kind of doctrine that they couldn't figure out, and they couldn't find the right answers that they wanted, instead of the answers that the Lord has for them. Or sometimes we don't get answers here on earth, you know, we have to wait for our answers. But they get offended and then they leave, you know, but they get so offended and leave that they now try to get the Lamanites, you know, to come and fight the Nephites for that. Okay, so that was October 1989 General Conference from President Boyd K. Packer. Okay, so that is it for Helaman chapter 4. And Helaman chapter 5 is coming up next. And this is a good one, Helaman chapter 5. So I'm going to read it, live it for us really quick. Okay, here is read it, live it for today. For Helaman chapter 4, and it says, "It is not hard to fall from faith. It can happen in the space of not many years. It happens because of withholding, denying, and deserting." Ooh. Imagine what the opposite could do. Give, testify, remain loyal. That's powerful. Okay, yes, and until Helaman chapter 5, stay strong, warrior, and stay loyal.